So hey. New fag for the most part, know the site, don't use it much, but a buddy of mine likes to share stuff from time to time in the form of screenshots, and I wanted to throw out something I went through last year. I'll try for a proper green text format or whatever, but I'm inexperienced so please forgive me, X. Also don't care if you believe or not, and I'm also not a great storyteller, but I will do my best. There's some kicking shit in Eastern Virginia, I got no damn clue. I'm not the most knowledgeable on cryptids if that's what you lads call them. Be me, relatively new boogaloo boy, been a collector of various knives and bladed tools since I was 14ish, now 22. Not a whole lot to my name there, just some mediocre bloat with a few bits and pieces of actual good shit. An army buddy I met online through a site ended up helping me out with a bit of a boost via a great hiking backpack to supplement my gear and replace the older one. Also basically bought me my first rifle, pick related, old Type 56 SKS from 1954 or so. It has been a sec since I've been around her, but it was mid-50s dated. Anyway, I at the time lived in Virginia with my parents as I didn't know what I was doing after high school, where there's cunt loads of trees, thick boy forests, all that shit. Great mix of environment, seasonal changes, etc. Who gives a fuck? There was a largish forest trail set up not super far from where I was at, maybe a half-hour's drive. Had a no camping rule, but I didn't really care. I liked the idea of camping, but have literally never been more than a couple times, both when I was pretty little and it sucked, but now that I was big brave boog boy, I wasn't about to let some bitch-ass forest stop me. I'm inexperienced, semi-knowledgeable, but green as shit. I go out into the forest over the weekend because I wanted to have my first time real camping all by myself, kitted up just like shit had actually gone down, and I was on my own. Mind you, I'm not the most fit guy in the world, 6 foot with an average build, but I am fairly strong for it. I packed over like 70 pounds water weighted, not including Raifu, who with an extended box mag and shit wasn't feeling all too light. Struggling a bit after a few miles of this hilly ass trail, but I wanna keep going and feel in the woods like all the boys on K and have what I hoped would be a fairly memorable experience. Yeah, was pretty fucking memorable. So, I leave the house around like 1100 or so, whatever. Figure I'd go after lunch, so I got some shit in me, and I'd only be out there actually moving for a few hours but still having time to make camp and all. Was excited, first time actually doing that. BTW like 10-ish miles from where I parked my car. Long ass hike, was listening to some podcast stuff on my phone, and lost track of time ended up making a relatively passable shelter and fire despite my inexperience, big ole brown tarp folded in a way where it lay across the ground, but also went vertically up before forming a roof of sorts, supported by some paracord attached to the trees. Little bit of mosquito netting, merino wool blanket, then a small sack stuffed with leaves and various foliage helped make a bit of a pillow. Pretty comfy, not gonna lie. By time I managed to get a fire going, not too hard given how it was autumn in that state, dry ass leaves and tinder everywhere, dead wood too. Shit lit right up with this neat little Taser fire starter I found one day at work with a previous job, selling for like $20 to $30 or some shit, rechargeable zappy. It's later evening. For those living in Virginia, you know how many fucking deer there are. You could literally walk out to take a piss and end up ass fucking one, they're so plentiful in some areas. It's nuts. Most every other large animal native to the area went dead some time ago because we didn't like them hanging out, wolves, most big cats, etc. Coyote from time to time, but extremely uncommon most places. Maybe burrs, but same case depending. So, I get a little spooked as most do despite knowing this, got the fire going, and even made a Spam sandwich, tasted like shit by the way. I don't know how people eat Spam without being forced to, was fucking awful. It's a clear night for the most part, weather was kind enough to not bring rain or clouds, so the moonlight did a good job of illuminating what the flames couldn't. I'm in the middle of gagging on this awful stomach cancer sandwich, regretting my decision to only bring that boat rations and trail mix for weight and in a woods experience. I even brought a harmonica that I didn't know how to play. For effect. Then there's some goddamn crashing through the forest on the outskirts of my camp. I got no fucking clue what it is. Like, this was big animal kind of crashing. Bumbling retard who couldn't find the bathroom after shitting himself kind of stumbling. This thing had no stealth to it at all, so I figured it was some drunken idiot who was trying to find a place to stop. I ready the rifle anyway, really shakily and having a time chambering around, but my old girl was ready to do her best to protect me. This rifle, by the way, was heavily used by time I got her. I'm talking thumb grooves around the damn stock from being held so much, a discolored bayonet end, and various chips everywhere. She has seen a lot of combat, I can tell. Was in Cosmoline for quite some time, took about 2 weeks to clean her up. Did my best, was proud. I trusted it after all the effort I put in. You just have that kind of connection with your first gun, yak no? I point towards whatever the fuck is off out of sight, smoke from the fire unluckily in its direction and distorting things a bit. Standing up, I kinda bop my head on the roof of my lil shelter and stumble some completely throwing off my balance, but I do catch myself. I shout some nonsense towards the noise and tell it to come out. No response. No more rustling either. I yell louder. As said, I'm a decently sized guy, I am always quiet, but I got my dad's temper and volume when I need it. I'm scared as shit, like legitimately. This was my first actual dangerous encounter of any sort in my entire life. Something in me recognized danger, alert. This is bad. And got that anger out though, projecting it somehow. There was some kind of ragged breathing, not even. Like, the normal kind. This sounded like whatever was breathing had holes in its lungs. It was a wet, bellows type noise I will never forget. Still no response apart from that. This was, not very comforting. I yell one more time, warning that if it didn't reveal whatever it was, I was going to shoot. Not the responsible thing, but I was too rooted in the situation to think otherwise. Yak no, shit's loud. Might cause someone to come cracking down on me. Didn't care. Waited a few more seconds before my quivering, clammy hands managed to squeeze and get that 7.62 out towards it. Crack of fire and smoke from my sole protector. Crashing again, the thing running off like it had approached. Okay. The literal fuck was that? Me, freaking the ever-living hell out about the situation, no clue on what was going on. It's late, I know damn well that while I could get back to the car eventually, there was no way I'd make a safe hike all the way there if this thing or person was going to chase me. I was weighted and not about to abandon my gear, dumb decision reason, but looking back, I think staying put was the right decision. Of course I also happened to have shit reception, fucking Sprint. All my listening stuff was downloaded for that reason, but Jesus Christ I couldn't sustain any kind of signal out there. I stayed at camp, stoking the fire while trying not to shit myself. It's not even midnight yet. Fuck. Me being the night owl I am, habitually stay up and don't get anywhere near enough sleep, really started hitting me around 10 or so, I can't really recall. I'm nodding off, not really. Good. A few slaps here or there help somewhat, but there's not much I can really do about it. I'm expecting whatever this was to come back, but I'm just trapped there essentially. Some more time passes, my bitch ass barely conscious at this point. My face went fucking loud. Footsteps again, hard to tell if these were from a two-legged thing or not. Snap back awake in my terrified state and stand up, back to the thick, nearly interwoven trees behind me as some sort of barrier. This time it steps into the little clearing where I had my campsite. Now, before I recall this, please note that I might have been so scared my brain flicked up what I was looking at, but for the life of me, I can still remember it near clear as day as it stood in the crackling fight. Easily 10 feet tall, hunched over, covered head to toe in this dark, shaggy fur. Fucking looming just 24 or so feet away. It was heaving, like it had trouble just like breathing or something. It was incredibly unsettling how it seemingly struggled to move around. Twin horns of some sort were on its head, looking kinda like a goat, I think. I wouldn't call it one if I was in any other situation, but a goat seemed to be the best fit for this fucked up face. Big, dark glowy eyes that reflected light back at me, a glistening maw of white teeth. Obviously couldn't see the teeth apart from that, but I wasn't about to fucking find out if I could help it. This thing stunk like some sort of musk that only really seemed to come about when it was closer, as I didn't smell it before, or at least I don't think I did. Anyway, it's just standing there. I don't know what it's doing. I'm so fucking scared. Literally shaking in my boots as this monster is there. Reptile brain isn't happy with my decision making apparently, decides that now is fight time as it knew we weren't about to outrun it. I immediately start to mag dump at it in a panicked scream. My poor rifle was spitting glorious cheap steel case Narinko out at the freak of nature as fast as I could squeeze the trigger. I get off around 5 or so before it let out some kind of bestial roar and started towards me. This roar wasn't, well, how do I put this? It's the fucked kind of roar. Like, the sort of thing you hear in horror movies specifically designed to freak you out with how unnatural they sound. If I could label it at all, it'd be like fucking a dozen human yells all mixed together and dying in a sack floating down the river, a wail. Some kind of distorted wailing, some kind of fear, hate, pain, anguish that I couldn't understand, let alone deal with at that moment. The voices didn't seem like they belonged to it, I damn sure didn't like it. More shots go off. I hear the rounds sinking into this freak, more screaming from the both of us. I don't think mine was anywhere near comparable to this. I couldn't replicate it if I tried, but my fear was basically palpable at this point. Most scared I've ever been in my entire life. I'm probably 3/4 the way through my magazine. I had spare clips on the butt stock, but that'd take time. I didn't fucking have time. This beast is obviously shaken by the impacts, but was still moving towards me. I get a few more panicked shots off before it's way too close, and I let out some sort of screeching battle cry, like this monster of nightmares, and I'm some fuck standing there with a rifle over 60 years old with a little knife poking off the end. What am I gonna do? Well, reptile brain had gone through a lesson or two in trench warfare it seems. I get the order to charge myself, try to stab it. Not much room for a charge, it's within like 5 feet. But it's enough for me to at least get a couple steps of force behind myself. The bayonet sinks into its lower chest as I'm wide-eyed and still screaming my fucking head off. It actually seems to have done something beyond whatever collective effect 15 or so rounds had. It stumbles backwards. This thing stumbles backwards, I'm hurting it. I yank out the blade and try again, narrowly avoiding a swipe of whatever tree trunk you'd call that fucking forearm. Hit bone or something. Didn't work. It howls in what I assume was pain. I rip out once more and retreat several bounds away. I still can't move that fast. I pulled a groin muscle doing that shit. Not fun. Didn't care at the time. I light off the last of my magazine against it, the explosions heating the gun up quite a lot around my hand guard, but I dealt with it. It's backing off finally. I fumble to try to snatch some clips out of the buttstock pouch, drop one. Fuck. I get the second of 3 and manage to cram it down through the little guide rail. Thank fuck I did a little bit of practice with it in my room like a horny 12-year-old learning how to masturbate. 10 more rounds go sailing out in its direction. It lets out one last roar before fully retreating. I don't know how many hit. I'm hyperventilating, piss in my boxers that I didn't notice at all. It's gone. The thing is gone. My face went collapse out of fright and not wake up until a bit before dawn. Nothing else seemed to have happened that night, didn't die anyway. I had no idea what had happened and how much I accurately remember from the engagement, scared shitless as you could imagine. I checked around the campsite and saw its footprints, took pits on my old phone. They were a few inches deep and like half a foot across horizontally, more than that on the longer measurement. They were some sort of hoof-paw hybrid from what I can tell. Like, you know those weird double-cleat tracks that deer leave? Like that, but 4 per foot and one heavy, rounded pad behind them. I couldn't say for the life of me, didn't want anything more to do with the place. Packed my shit and left, hoofing it back to the car as fast I could realistically go the 10 miles or however long it was. Make it back, throw my shit in the trunk. Start driving home, still really shaken up. Don't even bother explaining the situation to my parents, who were a bit concerned about me going out like that along to begin with, let alone me trying to spin some tale about encountering some kind of monster and shooting at it a bunch. They can tell something happened, but respect my not speaking of it. I don't in the woods in fucking Virginia anymore. I never want to hear the sounds that thing made ever again. If y'all have any clue what this should be, please tell me. There's the obvious skinwalker or something, but I only got vague ideas on what that one is, and from what I know, that's not what this was.